Now, moving into our next story of the day, speaking of idiots, you have, yes, Silicon Valley Bank collapsing, which we're going to cover here in this video. But we also have the state of California, which was never a slave state, by the way, wanting to give black people reparations. And not just those that you could trace back actually to slavery, but just the fact that you're black, you're going to get reparations. This is so insane. It's so insane. But let's go ahead and roll it. It is from Fox News.
VP Chuck DeVore. Chuck, great to have you on. As for the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank, I want to read this. This is from Bloomberg today, right? The fallout stands to bring a reckoning to the Bay Area's tech-driven economy, a center of the state's recent economic boom. Just as California is facing a broader slowdown, tax collections from high earners that drive revenue are falling as the stock market flounders. And the theme there is that half of California taxes are paid by the top 1%. If they're not making money in the stock market, California is not making money.
Trace, that's absolutely correct. California has the highest marginal income.
Hold on a second. I was told that the 1% don't pay their fair share. I mean, isn't that the motto of the Democrat Party and the progressive left and these socialists like Bernie Sanders? The 1%, the Waltons, you know, all this stuff. I thought, what do you mean that the 1% is paying predominantly all the tax in the state of California? Aren't we just trying to increase the taxes on the 1% or anybody making more than $400,000 a year, which is Biden's plan? So it's amazing to me that they're never paying their fair share, but yet they're paying virtually all the tax. And that actually goes with the United States as well. It's not the 1%, but the top 10% pays a hell of a lot of tax here in the United States.
Income tax rate in the country. And when you have these equity events from these startups in Silicon Valley, the tax man in California really benefits. And so what you're having right now is California's deficit went from almost $100 billion surplus last year to about $22.5 billion deficit. And now the Legislative Analyst Office is thinking that even that's too rosy. So it may be like a $30 billion deficit. Yep. And that's before the fallout from the Silicon Valley Bank.
What?
Did you hear that? Again, $150 billion surplus, let's just say. And now we're in a $22 to $30 billion deficit. This is before the financial crisis that just took place. This is before they want to pay reparations. So this is all going to combine itself together and be a holistic view of just the money California wants to spend, of which we don't even have, but typical of our politicians to want to do something like this.
You're talking about billions. Gavin Newsom is still talking about reparations. The California Secretary of State said the following here, quoting, "If California can admit its sins and change the narrative, then there is a way forward for states and cities across the nation." I want to put this up because this is the Reparations Task Force plan. Give every black resident $360,000. 1.8 million black Californians who have an ancestor enslaved in the U.S. would receive money, even though California was not a slave state. The total cost would be $640 billion. That's on top of the $22.5 billion deficit. Where are they going to come up with $662 billion, Chuck?
Well, I don't think they're going to come up with it at all. I think this is more really left-wing virtue signaling and certainly something to help Gavin Newsom and his possible ambitions to run for president. But let me tell you, Trace, here's what California could really do to help its middle class and especially its black citizens. It can turn around its economic policies. Trace, California lost about 2% of its black population from 2010 to the 2020 census. In Texas, African Americans up 19%. In Florida, up 10%. Nationally, up 6%. And so
why would they go to red areas? Because I was told by the Democrat Party for literally decades now that Republicans in red areas are all racist. So why would we be having an uptick in the black community going to red areas if it's ran by a bunch of racists? That doesn't sound right. That kind of sounds illogical. It's because it isn't true. Black people are going to be way more prosperous in red areas or predominantly red areas than they are in Democrat-ran areas. That is the fact. And what's amazing here is the state of California wants people like me that live in this state to pay for somebody else's sins that were committed in the past. That's theft. I didn't do anything wrong. I'm not racist. I want black people to prosper. I want everybody to prosper. But the fact that you're going to take it out of my pocket for somebody else's injustices of the past to pay for the injustices of the past today is completely mind-blowing to me. And by the way, $640 billion plan. How they can get the money? Well, I have no idea. The money doesn't exist. It's not going to exist unless they literally increase taxes, of which we are already one of the most highest tax states in the union. I mean, Pennsylvania beats us out in some way, shape, or form on some certain things like gas, but hell, it is ridiculous. Just literally giving it to black people. I mean, talk about you don't have a freaking clue. I mean, some black people literally own slaves. You could actually be giving it to people that were owning slaves in the past that were committing injustices that you're trying to rectify by giving people reparations today. So on one hand, you literally could have a scenario where there's a black family that you're giving money to that was literally the slaveholder of another family of which you're giving reparations to. This family could own this family in the past or one of their loved family members. Let that one sink in. You go figure that the Democrat Party is going to put these idiots in place, very similar to what we just saw with Silicon Valley Bank and the rest of them, to sit there and run all these things. How is it there's so many idiots running around trying to tell everybody what they're going to do with our taxpayer dollars? I don't understand it. How the hell is there that many people?
That people are leaving California. You have middle class folks leaving California. You have black Californians leaving the state because there is no opportunity unless, of course, you happen to be some billionaire out of Silicon Valley getting bailed out by Joe Biden.
Yeah, it's amazing. And by the way, since you left, Chuck, California has really, the homeless thing, 12 homeless encampments from where I live to this studio, 12 different homeless encampments you drive through. I want to finally touch on this. This is Gavin Newsom. He's boycotting Walgreens because Walgreens is failing to send abortion pills to 21 states where the attorneys general have said, don't send them or we're going to sue you. This is the Walgreens spokesperson. He says the following: Walgreens is facing the same circumstances as all retail pharmacies, and no other retail pharmacies have said that they would approach this situation differently. So it's unclear where this contract would now be moved. In other words, what's Gavin Newsom going to do when he runs out of pharmacies to boycott?
Again, this is all about performative politics, Trace. This isn't about making Californians' lives better. Walgreens' actions are in, 21 states not named California? And so he punishes one of the nation's largest retailers of pharmaceutical products to make a statement because he's going to run for president or something? This is ridiculous. Gavin Newsom needs to focus on getting California's house in order. Instead, what he does is he goes to Mexico to work on his tan and he comes back home with COVID-19.
Yeah.
And, Walgreens, what they're going to do at some point, once their leases are up, I'd say, hey, let's get the hell out of the state. Nobody wants to do business in the state of California. It blows my mind that you have these massive franchises or these corporations even wanting to do remotely any business in the state of California. There's a reason why there's Starbucks, Walgreens in some areas, CVS. I mean, some of these places, Walmart up in Portland, closing all its stores in the city of Portland because of all the crime and the theft that's taking place, because nobody wants to sit there and do business in high tax areas, high tax states, high crime areas, and high crime states themselves, like all these Democrat and blue ran areas. Nobody wants to do business there, so they're going to get the hell out. And then you tack this on top of it. I mean, if I was Walgreens, I'd say peace out. We'll go do our business elsewhere. We'll go into happily red states. Florida will take you with open arms. Texas will take you with open arms. And you could sit there and do prosperous business in those states. Get the hell out of California.
I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Bald Brad Show. If you did, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all our future content.